Welcome to Democracy and the Rule of Law. Democracy and the Rule of Law is a one-hour current affair program where the live issues and current matters in the country and trending matters for that matter are discussed by seasoned legal practitioners so that you viewers at home can have the best perspective and form a very good opinion on what is obtainable in the government, between the government and the people of Nigeria. My name is Samuel Akulogun Esquire. I'm Barrister Samuel Akulogun. I am a legal practitioner and I'll be the anchor of today's program. With me is Barrister Obiora Ume. Barrister Obiora Ume is a legal practitioner, a right activist, and in his early days of the practice of law, had worked with legal luminaries and great icons like Chief Gani Fawemi. He's now the lead counsel in his own law chambers. So, Barrister Obiora Ume, we are glad to have you in the set today.
You're welcome, and thank you for having me.
Also with us is a very well-known and seasoned legal practitioner, Barrister Adeshina Ogunlana. He's a legal practitioner, and of course, I know he's a very known face in this sector. Please, we're glad to have you.
Thank you so much, presenter.
Yes, sir. Welcome. So now, to our topic, we'll be looking at some very important topic today, and for that matter, especially labor and the federal government. Recently, the organized labor section, the labor union, went on an industrial action. Actually, they gave an information in that regard and proceeded to go on industrial action. So we want to look into how that can be viewed from the legal perspective. And so I will be speaking with Barrister Ogulana now. But one of the major things I want you, Sir Barrister Ogulana, to look into is we have a situation that is akin to the animal farm situation where Animal Farm, written by George Orwell, I believe you've seen that, where the pigs said, look, remove man from the scene and the root cause of hunger and overwork will be abolished forever. But towards the end of the novel, you see a situation where someone said that the creature inside the room now look from man to animal, and from man to pig, and from pig to animal. So there was no longer difference between the pigs and the animal, between the oppressor and the oppressed. Now, labor has always ridden on, we want to help Nigerians. We are standing to fight for the interest of Nigerians. Government is our problem. Government is not doing the right thing. But at the end of the day, we are seeing labor looking more like government. Labor seems to have entered into government. They now have the Labour Party. Do you think that labor can still maintain distinction between itself and government? Can there still be credibility to whatever they are saying now, especially as the Labour Party is not a party in power? Wouldn't it now look like as if, oh, because you didn't win, that is why you are trying to frustrate the operations of the federal government? I'm looking at the credibility aspect of the operation of labor going forward.
Well, the issue of credibility is an issue of perception. If somebody is prejudiced. There's nothing you can do about that. And there's a proverb about somebody seeing the stallion of a rival, and you say it's still a dwarf. Even though this is a mighty horse, you still say it's a dwarf. The issue of labor antagonizing government only because Labour Party is not in power, to me is jejune, is childish, it's not reasonable. The track record of Labour over the years, however ineffective, has always to come up to challenge government over its policies, especially over its economic policies, as it may adversely affect the fortunes of our people. You see, and as per the maybe possible merger of labor having the same similitude with government, I've not seen that that happening, except where you can say in a way, if you use the example of the former NLC president, Adams Oshiomhole, who became a governor of Edo State, and he himself had problems with the workers of Edo State, and one could not really say he was particularly outstanding as a champion of the masses of Edo State, considering his background. Yes. But that's a lone example. It may not be enough to say, oh, when you get to, because the usual attacks on critics of government that, oh, we are all the same. When you get in there to, you behave like that. Having said so, one should also consider the fact that really Nigeria is actually not a democratic country. That's the truth, in my perception. If you don't understand citizenship, how can you, that's the bedrock of democracy. It's when you simplify democracy, you say one man, one vote. That is Ori Ojori now. If I can put that in Yoruba, no head is bigger or better or nobler than another head. That is the central core of
the... Sir, I will take you up on that. You said that Nigeria is not yet a democratic society. That's a strong statement. What is your perception of a democratic society, and how is that different from what we have in Nigeria?
When you talk about democracy, you have to understand democracy as a rebellion against monarchy. Democracy itself is a reaction and response to monarchy. It overthrew monarchy. That's as aristocratic rulership. You understand? Our forms of monarchy and aristocratic leadership will even include things like plutocracy. That's the rulership of people that are wealthy. You understand? When you claim divine right, or you claim right to rule by inheritance, all those kind of things. That's what, but in democracy, you are just saying everybody is equal. And that's why you say, oh, a billionaire and a cleaner, they have only one vote. You understand? And you don't talk of subjects again in a democracy. You are talk of citizens. You understand? But in Nigeria, you even look at the mode of governance we have. You'll find out that the mode of governance in Nigeria is quite aristocratic. When Buhari was coming, they said, oh, what a Spartan man, what a frugal man. The Baba got in there and they started enjoying the perks of office. What is a senator in Nigeria doing to worth any 25 million naira a month? For what? That will tell you, and look at all the, you see, they said 70 billion palliative and 40 billion for principal officers of NAS, 110 billion. And the government at the time was proposing to now, even now, saying they want to use just 100 billion for transportation, palliative for 200 million people. That will tell you how lopsided. In fact, when you come into government and you have entered into the vault of wealth. So to that extent, you find out that, like you said, they don't feel accountable to the people. This is the truth. Meanwhile, you must feel accountable to subjects. When people are saying power, even the way they relate to people in power, will show that these people are even higher than kings. See the title. They say His Excellency. What makes a governor to be excellent? What makes a president excellent? You go to Britain, they don't call the prime minister His Excellency. They don't even have the commander in chief. But in Nigeria, and commander in chief. And I think Mr. Tinubu has become the Ààrẹ Ọ̀nà Kakanfò of ECOWAS empire now. So, I think we're going to come to that. Oh, okay, sorry. But let me go straight to what you have just asked me. Really, we don't understand the meaning of citizens. When you understand citizenship, you know that what we are doing in Nigeria is still not yet a democracy. We are just working towards it.
So just like all animals are equal and some are more equal than...
No, the animals are not even equal here in Nigeria. You know it yourself now. How can you say you are equal to a governor? You voted for him. That is if your vote can't. Immediately he comes in, they say His Excellency. And he does whatever he likes. And if you criticize, that's the right of a citizen. To accountable governor, we want to, House of Assembly member, we want to know how this thing, no, it's seen as taboo. And the journalists are practicing their trade in Nigeria under very strict, and you are apprehensive. That shows you that democracy is still not really in place.
Thank you very much, Barrister Ogunlana. Viewers, it's still democracy and the rule of law, and we are going deeper into how that affects us. Definitely, you're going to have a sweet time with us. Now, Barrister Obiorame, I want you to speak to this, something that Barrister Ogunlana just talked about. What can the labor organization do differently, considering the antecedent, to ensure that government is more accountable, or at least that we are getting a step closer to the democracy we claim to be?
Thank you very much. To start with, getting government to be accountable is the duty of every Nigerian. You and I have a duty. But the question is, do we have that opportunity to get government to be accountable?
Are you saying that labor does not have the opportunity to do that?
Just hear what I want to say.
Okay, sir.
The people that are in power, most of them manipulate their way to where they are. Why do I use that word manipulate? In collaboration with some agencies. Let's get to specifics. We have true democracy where the citizens of a country exercise their right to vote, their franchise. In Nigeria, what we have today is alarming voter apathy. A lot of people don't vote because they tell you if they go to vote, will their votes count? And in most cases, it does not count. Let's look at what happened recently. The election just got conducted in Nigeria. The Electoral Act specified what and what will be used for the election, the modalities of the election, the way results will be transmitted electronically. And people all over the world and in Nigeria, we are having hopes that maybe this time we will get it right.
But I said there is nothing hinging them on just electronic transmission, so they could transmit manually. Is there any provision of the law that
before the election transmission, the INEC chairman boldly told the whole world that INEC has arrived, and at this time around, the election will be free, will be fair, will be transparent. That whoever gets elected will be elected by the result of the votes of the people of Nigeria.
Well, that's what you're saying. That's the result of the people of Nigeria.
If that is so, why are there cases at the electoral commission courts and tribunals challenging what transpired at elections?
Because they felt that, excuse me, sir, because they felt that anybody that didn't win can as well go out to court and challenge it. That does not vitiate the credibility of an election. So the fact that people are in court, do you think it's enough to say that the election was not free and fair? Or that because it was not transmitted electronically?
If I will tell you my own opinion, INEC failed the nation. And the INEC failed the nation because what people expected was not what they saw at the end of the day. And it meant that a lot of people did not vote. Please hold
on. Sir. Barrister Ogunlana, I think that is quite subjective. I wouldn't know what is your perspective in that regard.
Well, it must be subjective. Naturally, it must be subjective. Say, my opinion.
Yes.
Even if I agree with the opinion, it should still be subjective.
Yes.
And then, being legal practitioners, of course, we know that there's a limit. We may go into it because we have these matters in court. Yeah. But court matters or not, the fact is that the average Nigerian, we all live in society, is not pleased with that election, regardless of declaration of who. Somebody apparently is the president now, and has been running the country, but it's a recent election that all of us here have fairly vivid memories about. It could be better. It could be much, much better. And if anybody comes up and says, oh, it's a perfect or excellent election, that person is simply exaggerating. The issue about credibility of election vis-a-vis people going to court is there. The not number of people that goes to court, but the weight of the cases brought before the court. Up till now, there have been a lot of legal pundits saying to go this way, to go that way. But then, since incidental of us here are lawyers, we know that there's no lawyer that can boast his chest and beat his chest and say that, oh, the court must surely do this way. At least not Nigerian court. Yeah. You cannot say that. So you can still go. See, we are in the Nigeria where somebody did not participate in a primary is in the Senate. We are in the country where somebody was number 4 became number 1. In fact, in case of Rotimi Amechi, he was not at all on the ballot, and he did not even ask. He only asked for a repeat of the election. I can't say no, that you are the governor. So no lawyer, really, not even the much senior lawyers can say this exactly. And in a way, it's still kudos to the judiciary. No hope is completely lost on the Nigerian judiciary, and they are doing a lot despite their own weakness and setbacks. But for you to know they do a lot is that nobody can write off the Nigerian judiciary. You may not be too comfortable with them, but nobody can say, people say a lot of things about Nigerian police. We know. People say a lot about NEPA. They are still NEPA. Despite they are saying disco, people still say NEPA till today. That tells you a lot about our institutions. And talking about this democracy, like you said, it's still a lot of, don't just deceive ourselves. Apart from nomenclatures, there's still a lot of work to be done, really. And you mentioned something, the issue you raised also goes to even the issue of citizens. Most of us used to think that it's only about these governors and politicians and all that. Like he said that the duty of making government accountable is not just the duty of the NLCO. Yes. It's the duty of every Nigerian. Okay, look, many of us do complain about our local government that we just pay, they are just collect all this in our neighborhoods. Yes, but do we go, how many people write petition? Do you go to accountability, even to ransom, go over to them and we pay up, but what's happening? Why must you be harassing us to collect money? You know, the local government, they like this money from stalls. Yeah. Well, all these small shops and everything. And there's just nothing. They just collect every month, every year. We don't see, except you are not living in Nigeria. If you live in Nigeria, you know that he is a local government to himself. I'm a local government. You are a local government. And yet there's an official local government doing nothing. So assuming that all of us rally around us about people governing us to see that the right thing is done, and not just leaving it to so-called activists, supermen or superwomen, labor people. No, in our own in our own areas, we write petitions, we try to see the governor, we go to the office of the assembly members representing us to complain, write articles, and if people, journalists appear, no, ordinary people can, this place, imagine if 200 or 500 people should congregate in front of your office here, the Galaxy, and saying that, oh, we want you to help us broadcast we are not happy with Onigbongo or our House of Assembly. But if anybody tries to make that effort here, not that even the police will beat them, people will say, oh, I'm too tired, Gary, I'm tired, oh, I have to go and feed myself. Do something for democracy, so that democracy can do something back for you.
Thank you very much, sir. Do something for democracy so that democracy can do something back for you. This is still democracy and the rule of law. We are exploring how the rule of law deepens democracy, and how we can ensure that we get even steps closer to what we call ourselves a democratic society. So now we'll be going for break. This is still democracy and the rule of law. Now we'll be going for break, and when we return, we shall be continuing from where we stopped.
Democracy and the rule of law. Promoting the rule of law.
Sunday, ECOWAS Authority of Heads of State and Government held an extraordinary meeting to discuss the next line of action on the developments in Niger Republic. This follows moves by members of the Nigerian Presidential Guard who detained President Bazoum and later declared General Chishani as the nation's new leader. In taking decisive steps, the chairman of the ECOWAS Authority of Heads of State and Government, Bola Tinubu, demanded that the coup plotters surrender and return to their barracks. Speaking to Galaxytv News, public affairs analyst tasked ECOWAS to do everything possible for Niger Republic to return back to normalcy.
ECOWAS would not be and should not be taken aback by that threat. The person who has been legitimately elected as the president has to be returned. And they should do everything possible to do that. More so that Yoruba will say, if they allow such to go, unchecked, then who knows? That will be an encouragement to the military formation in other countries.
But there is need to investigate to know whether there are external influence, so that the preparation of ECOWAS will go beyond looking at who actually sees power presently. And there will be synergy among all African leaders, so that they will be able to move as one, pursuing the same objective.
Following the military takeover in Niger Republic, what lessons can African leaders learn going forward?
A government will lose popularity if it refuses to do the biddings of the people. If it cannot, in the real sense of it, give the people dividend of democracy, not our own definition of dividend of democracy, but the real dividend of democracy. If people cannot eat 3 times a day, that is not democracy. If you are unable to work, the price of petrol is up there, and the multiplying effect is killing.
While we're saying that there is no room for them and everybody is trying to condemn military incursion into administration of the African continent at all means, it's equally necessary for us to talk to the presidents in all democratically elected and democratic country, those who have been able to occupy position of authority with votes of citizens of such country.
As the 7 days ultimatum begins to count down, only time will tell who blinks first.
The 2-day conference of the ECOWAS Chiefs of Defense Staff Committee examined the coup d'etat in Niger Republic, which represents a blatant disregard for the fundamental principles that underpin the regional integration and stability. Speaking at the closing of the event, the Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Defense, emphasized the need to uphold democratic principles and the rule of law, just as he assured that President Tinubu's administration is committed to ensuring democratic reversal in the sub-region.
I can assure you that Nigeria, through the leadership of President Ahmed Bola Tinubu, is committed to restoring democracy in the Republic of Niger. Our president, a core Democrat, an astute believer in Africa, and particularly West Africa, is committed to ensuring that we restore peace, democracy, and good governance in the Republic of Niger.
Nigeria Chief of Defense Staff and the Chairman ECOWAS Committee of Chiefs of Defense Staff said they advocated the strengthening of the regional security architecture to enhance the collective response to security challenges. He added that the coup in Niger Republic has highlighted the fragility of the region and the need for a robust and proactive security framework. The CDS, however, charged the ECOWAS CDS to enhance intelligence sharing, joint training exercises, and capacity-building initiatives amongst defense and security forces to effectively combat threats to the collective security and enhance interoperability.
We have acknowledged the need for a comprehensive approach that encompasses political, security, and diplomatic dimensions. It is imperative that we translate our deliberations into concrete actions that effectively address the crisis and prevent a recurrence in the future. ECOWAS will not be used for coups, democracy is what we stand for and democracy is what we sustain.
The ECOWAS Security Mission, who was represented by the Commissioner Political Affairs, called on President Tinubu to ensure that no more democratic reversal in the sub-region, while appealing to the military in Niger Republic to give peace a chance by reinstituting constitutional authority in that country.
The situation is very clear. Our organization is a rules-based institution. We are guided by our protocols, chief of which declare zero tolerance for power obtained or maintained by unconstitutional means. And we are here to make sure that we adhere to that.
The high point of the event was the exchange of mantle of leadership from former chairman ECOWAS Committee of Chiefs of Defense Staff to Nigeria's Chief of Defense Staff.
Democracy and the rule of law. Promoting the rule of law.
Welcome back, Nigerians. We've been talking about democracy and the rule of law, and we have seen how that everyone's hand has to be on deck if we must proceed from where we are to where we ought to be as a democratic society. And from what the very senior legal luminaries have talked about, you can see that the labor is on trial, so to speak. The judiciary also is on trial. To see whether we will be able to fulfill our own end of responsibility. Now, talking about responsibility, I recently, while our fire is still on in Nigeria, we heard that our government, our federal government, and then for that matter, the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria is requesting the National Assembly for, let's use the layman's language, for permission to use military force in a neighboring country, and that is Niger Republic. So now with the elephant we have on our head and this rat we are chasing, may I ask, is that actually the situation? Barrister Bulana, I'm coming back to you, Barrister Obiora. Do you think that this is what the federal government should be doing now? This is our big brother approach. Is it going to help us in the short or in the long run?
It can't help us at all. Whether in the long, whether in the short run, is unnecessary. And it's what I would call, with due respect, what I call fire brigade approach. First of all, is Nigeria at war with Niger?
Of course not.
Then what is the strategic importance of invading Niger on the platform of the ECOWAS? Even the cut of the electricity, is it part of the ECOWAS sanction? It will appear, with due respect, that I would rather want to the line of George Weah, the president of Liberia now, yeah, who was saying that instead of people looking at what is the cause of coups now, recurring coups, exactly, that's what is important, and not to say I will go into one country, topple that something, and put back. Look, they are going to have a problem in Niger. The coup in Niger is popular. It's popular, like the coup in Burkina Faso. Yeah. It's popular. The democracy we are talking about, funny enough, is the popular will of the people. So if somebody has come to power by the barrier of the gun, but is popular with his people, and you have the sovereignty of the state,
democracy comes to question.
You come to question. More so, they have not done any act of war against. No, you remember, with due respect to Nigeria too, and to APC, the ruling party. EEC, they came to cover the election, yeah, and they came up with a report condemning the election and everything. Yeah. The ruling party says, and the federal government says that, what's your business? It's our family affair. Now, Nigeria has done what they have done, and you are now rushing them, and you think it's easy. Ukraine is an example for Nigeria. Mighty Russia. Russia, you should even salute, has not been able to easily overwhelm Ukraine. And you are finding a situation where there is split in the region. Countries like Guinea, Burkina Faso, Algeria, outside of ECOWAS, and Tunisia, they are supporting Niger. So why this unnecessary? Why this? You can use diplomatic methods. If it works, remember, like you said, we have our elephant on our head. The issue of Nigeria is not just economic problem, insecurity, especially in that area of the country, the north. We have the Boko Haram people, we have the ISWAP, and in the east, even eastern Nigeria, is still highly unstable. It's just part of the country that is fairly stable. That's the western part of the country. Our army, they are stretched. We have the problem of even the bandits of the oil on the Niger and all that. We have not settled all those. You are now going to, and you know, we are not like the military might of the 1980s under the military regime of Babangida, Ekomog, that era is gone. No, even that, we were ruined.
Okay. We have very short time remaining. But you see, if you ask me, before I come to Barrister Obiora Ume, if you ask me, I would think that maybe the federal government has, or the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria has both a moral obligation, so to speak, and a positional obligation. First is the chairman of the ECOWAS, and then also the issue of credibility that you raised might be a moral burden. That, okay, if the government is not popular and is toppled like this, could that be something that could happen to my government too? Do you think that that is what might be the brain behind these interventions? One, the positional responsibility. I am the chairman of ECOWAS, and so I must rule, I must operate by example, I must take steps to make sure that this thing does not hold. And again, if it is happening in Niger just by my doorstep, is it not going to happen in this place? What do you think is propelling this, and what do you think the federal government could have done better? Just in 2 minutes, so that we can do something.
Thank you very much. What I think is this. Federal government has no business using force to restore the displaced leader in Niger Republic. First, in international law, there's a principle of non-interference. A sovereign nation is sovereign, and another sovereign nation has no right under international law to interfere with its own affairs. Yes, its own internal affairs. To that extent, Nigeria has no legal basis to go and use power, be it military power or otherwise, to overthrow what has taken place there. That's number one.
But what about on the balance of ECOWAS? Couldn't they... Okay, please say for me.
Number two, the popular aphorism is that he who wears the shoe knows where it pinches him or her. The Nigerians have been under a government that they feel is not doing well. And then as a result of that, a coup took place. And if you look at the masses there, they were jubilating, they were happy, they were like people that have been liberated from bondage. And the voice of the people is what matters. That is the heart, the kernel of democracy, that the majority, the masses, the citizens must have their way. So if the people have suffered enough and have decided that a military regime is better for them, what I expect the federal government of Nigeria to do is not to be beating the drums of war. Even though our president is the chairman of ECOWAS, does not matter. What is important is, first, what culminated into a coup? What were the discontent, the grievances, the problems that the people have had over the years that made them to jubilate? Because there's an unconstitutional change of government. Of course, as lawyers, we will always bend towards constitutionalism. Let there be proper and constitutional change of power. Due process, going by the constitution. But you see, we must always balance issues. If you muzzle people, you say they cannot, they must abide by your policies, your way of leadership, and you appear to be a dictator. It will get to a point that the people will revolt. Because it has been said that those who make peaceful change impossible makes violent change inevitable.
So what you're trying to say is that while trying to stamp out dictatorship, is Nigeria now going to appear to be the dictator here?
What I have said clearly is that the approach of the government of Nigeria should be one of finding out what were the problems and ways to resolve matters, not by going by force.
Okay, Barrister Ogunlanu, sir, please, can you address this situation quickly before we round up? Nigeria has not only applied the use of force, Nigeria has also taken steps, for example, cutting off electricity and stopping some bilateral relationships. Are these not germane? Do they have positive or negative impact on Nigeria and on Niger for that matter?
Completely negative on Nigeria. There is no way Niger will not see the action of Nigeria as overbearing and dictatorial. Not like you said, notwithstanding the chairmanship of ECOWAS, because you can't possibly say because you like outsiders and then you show that love at the expense of your own home. Charity must begin at home. I will expect the federal government of Nigeria to first consider the basic interests of Nigerians. Where does the River Niger comes from? It's not from Niger. If they dam the place, if they and you know the days of Nigeria fighting Biafra and Biafra is isolated, that day has gone. No, that time has gone. That's about more than 50 years ago, 60 years ago. Now, so-called small countries now have powerful allies that come around them. Big Russia is still there. You understand? And they should not turn Niger, and by extension Nigeria, into a theater of war. Yes. What is our problem with Niger? You go and cut their electricity and say, okay, no problem. That is it. And that is probably, again, with due respect to the federal government, I think a fire brigade approach, just like our economy. What has caused our problem now? May 29, somebody got euphoric upon declaration, say, fuel is gone. First transmission is gone. What has been the problem now? In fact, if somebody has told us that life is going to be immediately harsher, thrice harsher than Buhari's time, who everybody knows might not have done very well, one could not believe it. The same thing with this Niger something. One would expect a more circumspect approach to solving, or at least, see now, they sent delegation from Nigeria yesterday or 2 days ago to Niger. The delegation led by former head of state and supported by His Eminence Sokoto, the Sultan of Sokoto, and other big people like that. When they got there, Niger, neither the president they did not see, the deposed president they did not see. They had to go back. I mean, what kind of embarrassment is that? Because that's not the best way to look into it. And the impression is being given that Nigeria is now acting the script of some Western powers. And that is not too good for us. And like we have said now, where is the army? Well, I expect the Senate to be the balancing force in this way, and not to give that approval for war. And to imagine that we have a civilian president in democracy who is suddenly now begin to look like a warmonger. That's not the image of President Tinubu. We call him a technocrat, a financial guru, somebody, but suddenly now, nobody with a military background. Is war going to Christmas party?
No.
It's not. And our soldiers.
The use of our scarce resources.
Because who's going to bear? All these small countries in ECOWAS, all these Togo, with due respect to them, they will say, oh, Nigeria, you are the big brother, you are the chairman. Chairman, carry the 70% or 80% of the burden. Where? When in fact, we are broke. Everybody knows that the country is broke. So if you are broke and you are struggling to come back to your feet, so you should go and fight. What Niger did not fight us. Niger did not do any act of hostility against us.
I think Niger even had a very good relationship with Nigeria as so
well that Our former president said that if Nigeria becomes so hot for me, I will go to Nigeria.
Now, that said, Learning Council, we are coming to the end of this discourse. And then, but something tangential to the issue of the organized labor is it's a directive from the federal government recently that the directors at the SGL, that is a grade level 17 and above, who have spent up to 8 years in that portfolio position, should proceed on compulsory retirement. Now, recently, before we go, very similarly tangential to our discourse on the issue of the organized labor, is a recent situation where the federal government directed the directors at grade level 17 and above, who have stayed in that position for 8 years and above, to proceed on compulsory retirement based on the provisions of the revised public service rule of 2021. What do you think is the implication of these in considering the situation we are in now in the organized labor, and two, vis-a-vis the fact that in the other end, that is the politicians, for example, the House of Assembly members, there are those that have been there for donkey years, and what is the implication of these in with respect to what is also obtainable in the political balance?
Thank you very much. I want to start by saying that one of the drawbacks we've had in government, and that we are seeing in this present government, is embarking on policies, projects, bringing out things to be done without first of all doing the analysis, the impact analysis. What will be the effect, the consequences of this one on the people concerned and on Nigeria as a nation. One of the things was the issue of the so-called subsidy removal that was announced on May 29th, that triggered off what is now a very deteriorating life for Nigerians. And of course, we know that the essence of government is the welfare of the citizens. If the citizens can no longer feel protected, their interests are no longer protected, life is no longer guaranteed, then there's no need for that relationship anymore. And of course,
before you continue, sir, I want to draw it to the reason why I compare both of them.
Yes.
I think many people believe that the essence of this directive is to reduce the overhead on that the funds spent.
Yes, I'm coming to that. I'm coming to that.
What about the reduction of funds spent on the National Assembly and politics?
I'm coming to that. Now, if the whole idea is to reduce costs, then when you reduce costs from one sector alone, it becomes discriminatory. In its totality, we have always been of the view that the people at the National Assembly are taking so much money by way of salary, allowances, and whatever you call it. And then some people have suggested, why can't we have part-time legislators? The money that we spend on National Assembly is so much. Now, and even on inception this year, they started by increasing their allowances. Now, people that have rendered services to the nation in their various capacities, suddenly you now tell them to proceed on leave, terminal leave, without considering, one, what will be the effect of this on these people concerned.
I will have to stop here because of our time. I would like Barrister Ogunlana to say a final word on this, but I wanted to put this in perspective. If, for example, we are saying that what the federal government is trying to do is to reduce cost, expended on this sector of government, does this policy actually do that, achieve that? Because, for example, if I am going to be in, and I'll be 52 when I'll be in grade level 17, what stopped me from skipping promotional exams? So that I could spend at least 4 more years in grade level 17, so that by the time I go to grade level 16, so by the time I go to grade level 17, I still have my remaining years before retirement ahead of me. So the population you want to cut off may still remain in the system. So I wanted to speak to that and whether anything can be done with this.
I'm smiling because you are just talking like a Nigerian. The usual Nigerians are always finding ways to maneuver through laws, rules, and procedure. The difference between that directive on the civil service and the National Assembly, to me, they are not proper. Okay. They are not proper. The thing is that those other people in the National Assembly get in there by elections. It's still part of democracy. As long as the man is purportedly popular and he's always going back there, they are voting for him, no problem. The idea of the reduction of taking the people out of their civil service job, okay, if cutting down the cost of governance in National Assembly, is still different from the issue of cutting down personnel and cost of personnel in the civil service. If the civil service says, the rule says, if you are at level 17 and you have spent 8 years, you have to go. I'm a lawyer, I must talk about the law that is there. Until you change the law, that's okay. Remember that this is what happened to the military people, all those compulsorily retired generals. The idea is that why do you get so many directors in the first instance? How do you get so many generals in the first instance? Are you sure that even the civil service itself, ab initio, is not bloated at the senior cadre level? And the same thing with the military. Are they also bloated at that cadre?
The MDAs and the ministries.
The ministry, of course, the ministries are bloated. What you are doing here, your organization, if you have to be ministry, I think your staff will be 300. You know it now. You know it now. We are not efficient. As for the National Assembly people, I must agree with the proposition that they are too expensive. In fact, it's like you are just enriching people. Somebody will even be a former governor, he will become a senator, and will still be getting double funds and all that. It must be cut down. Like he said, why must we even have a permanent in the legislature, part-time?
Thank you very much, Barrister Ogunlana.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, viewers. This has been Democracy and the Rule of Law. We are sure you had a very swell time with us. We hope you join us, same time, same station, next week.